So you might have wondered, how does a camera work? And I'm gonna actually let you in on the basics, and I'm gonna do it in a way that you really get it. Okay, so if you're a seasoned photographer, you might jump 10 minutes and you thinking you know it all. You should still hang around because you probably don't know all about it. Okay, so I'm gonna present you for 3 major points in photography, but let's just have a look at what is photography. Photo means light, and graphy, that's actually painting with. So a photographer is somebody who paints with light. So it all has to do with how much light you get into the camera. And you know what? You already have a camera you use every second you're awake. What is that? That's your eyes, and they actually work in the same way. That might come as a surprise, but it's actually true. There are 3 ways we can regulate how much light goes into a camera and into your eyes, and they are actually the same. Okay, so let's have a look at them. I'm gonna give you 3 words from the world of photography which you probably heard, and maybe you understood them and maybe you didn't. One is shutter speed. It is actually likened to blinking. Now if I have my eyes closed and I open my eyes like that, I was able to capture something. If I open my eyes longer time, I was able to see more. Okay, so that's shutter speed. Very simple. It goes from, I mean, if you want to hold a camera and by hand and hold it still, you would probably not go to longer times than 1/30 of a second. If you're very steady on your hands, you can go a little bit further, but you should probably considering using a tripod at that point. A camera can easily go up to 1/4 thousandths of a second, so it can be extremely fast, and it can be quite slow. And very fast requires a lot of light actually to get any idea about what's going on. Imagine you go into a dark room and you open your eyes for a glimpse of a second. You will not be able to tell anything about anything. Okay, so that brings us to a very interesting next point. It is called, in photography terms, it's called ISO. It has something, the abbreviation is something like International Standard, blah, blah, blah. I can't remember the last, it's not important. ISO means the sensitivity of your eyes, or the CCD, or in the old days, the film you put in the camera. Now, let's have a look at the eyes. If I all of a sudden go into a dark room, the pupils expand. Okay, that means more light. But that's not all. That's not all. What happens is actually that the retina, which the light is hitting, is undergoing chemical changes up to half an hour, where it becomes more light sensitive. So if you sit in a dark room and you open your eyes and start looking around, you will see more and more and more. Okay, that is actually the sensitivity of your film, you might say. And sometimes in post-production, that means Photoshop, we can even get more details out of what has been processed by the CCD than first meet the eye, so to speak. Okay, so now we got the shutter speed is the length of time, and we got the retina being more or less able to see differences in detail and so on. And then we come to the third aspect is basically, I have already mentioned it, it's the pupil. How big is that hole where light go through? Okay, so that is the last ingredient, and you can see that you very easily can adjust the amount of light 3 ways. You can open your eyes for a longer time, that's shutter speed. You can wait until your retina becomes more light sensitive, that's increasing the ISO value. And you can simply have the pupil open more and more and letting in more light. It also has a fancy name, it's called the f-stop. The f-stop has something to do with the focal, now it gets a little bit technical, the focal length of the camera, and that and the whole compared to each other gives a certain value, okay? But it actually goes like this. If you have a focal and an f-stop of 2, okay, that is a big hole, okay, and you have an f-stop of 20, that's a small hole. So what you can actually see, okay, what is that? It just means that this hole requires 10 times as much light as this one here, okay? And when we talk about ISO values, if you have an ISO value, which is the sensitivity of the retina or the chip in your camera, then if it has the value of 100, then it takes in a certain amount of details. 200, it requires actually half the amount of light, and 400 it requires 1/4 of the light as if the value was 100. Okay, so lastly, you can see the exact same thing with shutter speeds. There is a double amount of light if you blink your eyes 1 second and then 2 seconds, right? So I can regulate the amount of light 3 ways. Okay, so that was just a very short lecture on how does your camera work, but it works the same way as your eyes do, okay? And I will actually I will take a short break and I'll be back here, and I might actually put this in another video, because then you can take this if you want to go into some, I think the next lecture I will do is something about basic editing of a very basic family photo and a sibling photo, basic stuff, and I'll give you some good Photoshop advice, and I might talk a little bit with reference to what I just went through. But actually you should go out and use your eyes today and see how that completely relates to your camera. You might say, but I don't have a camera, I only have my phone. Well, most phones actually have a settings section where you can go in and manually start to work with ISO, f-stop, and shutter speed. So these terms of basic photography, the triangle of exposure, is actually something you can get first-hand experience on, but you can just, again, relate it to how you use your eyes. You blink, you don't see so much, you have your eyes longer, open for longer times, you see more. You open your pupils, there's more light coming through, and you wait until your retina get very sensitive, you get more details. So your eyes also have 3 ways it can get in more detail, okay? And the camera is just exactly the same. So that was a basic lecture on your eyes and your camera. Same. Okay, so I'm gonna take a break. I'll be back shortly.